welcome to Let's Talk About, a series dedicated to leaders, authors, artists, marketers, creators, entrepreneurs, sharing tips and expert advice on business, media, technology, and frankly, life itself. I'm your host, Cynthia Nelson, three-time entrepreneur, Forbes contributor, investor, and advisor. Today, we're talking to Tesa Aragones, president of AKQA North America. Good morning, Tessa, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, AKQA, it's a tongue twister sometimes.
I was just going to say, I'm like, I know I had it, and I'm like, but couldn't quite get it out. You've had such an amazing career.
Thank
I mean,
you.
the roles, like, I'm just for the audience that's here, Nike, Volkswagen, Apple, Xbox, Bacardi, Universal, dot, dot, dot. I mean, you have 12 patents at Nike, top 40 under 40 marketers, 40 Forbes, CMO, AdWeek CMO, Business Insider CMO. Like, how did this entirely amazing career start? Like, where did you start wanting to do this as a living? How did you actually start?
Thank you so much. I am so grateful. I feel like I have had the opportunity to work with some incredible teams and on some incredible brands. I think, growing up as a first generation, Filipina American, I think that my parents always tried to make sure that we had the opportunity to pursue things that we enjoyed. And for me, I was just so curious as a kid. And the curiosity led me to try a lot of different things. I think working at Nike was a dream.
Yeah.
Growing up, my sport was tennis. I played tennis. I love tennis, and part of being an athlete is just being involved in, what it takes to be, on the court. And so, spending time at Nike in the training and digital sport departments actually helped me to really enjoy more of the work that I do. I think growing up in Detroit, you're always related to some part of the automotive industry. So
Yeah.
I've worked on domestic cars. I worked at Volkswagen for about, 9 years. I've worked on Asian vehicles when I moved to California, when I worked on Kia. But again, it's like I love automotive, I love cars. And really at the heart of it, again, is my curiosity and my passion for building things and innovation.
It's interesting because I think the curiosity piece is beyond, I think it's in you or it's not in you. And it's you either cultivate it yourself or your parents helped you cultivate it. It's not about the degree, it's about looking at the next big thing or seeing things like, I don't know, that's interesting. Like, I'm an idiot. I'll raise my hand. I'll go, she'll do it. Mikey likes it, like he'll eat
He
anything.
likes it. What a great reference.
Like, he'll eat anything, right? Throwback. But I think that curiosity part, a lot of times people go to school to do one thing, they get out to do one thing, and they've forgotten all this other stuff that actually is around them that actually makes the job that they're doing that much more rich, and I think maybe even better. And they maybe even become better at it because they're thinking and looking at other things around them, not just kind of pigeonholed.
No, I agree. And I think it's like part of it is just having that creative mindset where it's like you don't have to just, be put in a box and study what they tell you to study. And I think it's like we're all students of life.
Yeah.
And, the curiosity and the, innovative thinking really came from me. Just always wondering, like observing what was going around me and thinking, I wonder if there's a better way to do that. And, in my first job, one of the things I did is I launched GM's first websites,
Yeah.
and
Back in the day.
dealer website program.
Yeah.
And I remember pitching the idea of creating a website and the client saying, oh gosh, the agency just wants to create video games. But it was really born out of an experience shopping for cars with my
Right.
parents.
Yeah.
It's like English is a second language, going in there and watching them try to negotiate for a car. And I was like, I wonder if there's a better way to do this for people like my family.
Right.
And by being able to put all of the information on a .com
Hmm.
where, you know, immigrants, people who had English as a second language, people who felt uncomfortable negotiating,
Hmm.
women sometimes at that
Oh,
time,
yeah, yeah.
uh, they could have all the information and feel more empowered
I was gonna say
to
in
make a purchase
control, right?
decision. Yeah,
In control of what they wanted to actually do. And I think that is an excellent, application for bringing something old, a way of doing things that was always done one way. You went to the car lot, and again, everybody's like, like, to deal with those people, to deal with the people and get the runaround and not really know if you were getting the best price, right?
right. Well, and I think it's like, in a way, what was great about that experience for me is like I could help create a process that would make things easier for consumers. It also actually saved GM a lot of money from having to print really beautiful, expensive, glossy catalogs.
Yeah,
And when I spoke with the dealers, they're like, well, Tessa, when you do that, by the time they get to my lot, and I'm like, wait, stop.
yeah. They already know what
Our
they
job
want.
is to get them to the lot.
Yeah,
If they're still showing up, I'm like, that's amazing.
yeah,
I'm so glad you gave me that feedback. They're coming to the lot.
yeah.
And then they could actually focus on just building that relationship. And so it's that type of thinking that I've tried to carry on in the career. Same thing at Nike, around Nike Training Club. Like, what are those pain points? Is there, when you leave college, how do you work out when you don't have a coach or you don't have, the gym on the university campus and you have a full-time job? Well, we actually said, okay, well, I think there's a good way to do this. And I was able to pitch creating Nike's first iPhone app,
Mm.
a Nike Training Club, where we give you all the content and then connect you to your friends to keep you motivated. It's still one of the most successful
Oh, yeah,
uh, for their digital services, but it's the same type of scenario,
yeah,
good for
yeah.
the consumer and good for the brand.
Right. I think that the whole thing, at least what I hear from you is solving a problem in a new, innovative, or creative way, but the consumer is where you're focused. The brand obviously benefits from being closer to the consumer, gathering more data, understanding them better, but you really have that focus on what's going to make this consumer's life, their journey, their opportunity to buy, purchase, learn better. That's
Yes.
I think a lot of times we kind of think about as brands,
Yeah.
oh, we got to lower the price, so we need to sell more. We need to do. We forget about like who this person is or group that's actually buying. What are we doing to serve them every day?
I think its audience is so important, like who you're trying to connect with, what you're trying to say, where you say it. I mean, it's a critical part of what we do is to make that connection. And when you do it right,
Yeah,
you can make a meaningful, like emotional connection for the brands that you represent, but also just like, okay, you did something good to help somebody and they're going to think about it later because there's less friction in their life.
yeah,
And I think that type of problem solving is just, again, being curious, like, who are you serving? And also, it's like, what's going on in the world
right.
where you can do something where your brand can fit in a meaningful way. And I think it's really important now to think about audience, right? Because the
Yeah,
audience are shifting the way that we are all living after the pandemic, and even just the demographics are shifting. Like if you think about, women control about 30% of like global wealth today. And the
mm,
next decade is going to be about 50%.
yep,
So how is that going to impact our messaging and
right,
who will have more influence? And I think, I think about it. I know that a lot of like the next gen millennials,
yep.
Gen Z, they care about purpose. They care about, the brands that they represent.
And the authenticity of those brands.
Exactly. I
The
know, I
authenticity. Are
totally
you
agree.
really? Are you really doing some? Is your brand actually not only helping me, but how are you helping the greater good in some way?
Yes,
And
yes.
also, are you really authentic of that? Or have you just bought off, here's my tagline and a talent that I'm using, and pretending that that is gone. Like those days, I talk to these Gen Zs. I have a friend who's actually another good friend of Stephen Wolf's kid who just got hired. He's 17. He's in high school. He just got hired at a company called Fixated in LA as a talent manager because he brought in some talent to them in the creator economy. And he's taking these amazing YouTubers and they're going, oh, I'm getting deals. I'm making $20,000 a month, whatever. And now they're making $100,000 a month. Like, and he said, oh, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff's bullshit. It's gone. Don't even think about it anymore. No one's going to be on it. My generation's definitely not. We're looking at other things. We're over here. You guys
Yeah.
keep playing in your sandbox, but it's going away.
I
And we're,
think it's like it's so I find it fascinating. I always find it fascinating. I mean, as a storyteller,
yeah,
and um, I always love to watch how people interact with the world around them. And for me, as an Asian American, I love to see stories that I relate to, whatever platform it's on,
right.
you know,
Right. Doesn't matter.
because there's something about it that makes me feel
Mhm.
like belonging, right? And it's interesting, like less than 30% of Asian Pacific Islanders feel like they're authentically represented in any of the US produced media. And if that's just one subset, like change that Asian Pacific Islander with, the Latinx community
Yeah.
or the LGBTQ community
Yeah.
or women in general. And that's why I
Yeah.
feel like having a deep consumer insight practice, like the one we've built at AKQA, is so important because you have to spend time with the audience to be authentic. And
Yeah.
to your point, it's like if you're not authentic, they really won't be able to connect with your brand in a meaningful way.
Never, never. And it's been, I love the poster behind you, Think Small.
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
I mean, like, DDB, all-time favorite, amazing,
Yes.
great company and just a great set of ads. Um, what is exciting to you today? Like, what's exciting? What's going on that you think is like just, a dream or, hey, there's something new coming that you guys are just going to blow your socks off.
Well, I would say there's a few things that excite me. For one, I'm excited to see a landscape of more entrepreneurs, people that are coming up with ideas, people who have ideas and are innovating in different ways. And the reason why I think this is important is I think about just inclusivity
Hmm. Hmm.
and the next generation. So uh, if the next generation has access to more tools that allow them to build faster, I think that's very exciting. I think uh, so many times, and when I was growing up, I think we spend our careers just begging for a seat at the table. And what I'm excited about is for the next generation is that they don't have to do that. They can create their own paths and they can do great work and build together. I find that very exciting. And as a leader in today's world, I find that, building a better community and a better future really starts by building together. And that's why I champion for, DE&I initiatives. And I think as a leader, whether we're looking at funding startups, you're an investor, placing people on our own board of directors
Yep.
or employing first generation employees. I think that's so exciting because it's our responsibility really to hire inclusively and also promote equitably. So yeah, that excites me.
Yeah, I love the entrepreneur side of that because I think it's just, I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years. Like that wasn't even a word. It wasn't a word. It was like, oh, you're an idiot. You dropped out of college. You're working at some computer place. Like, are you stupid? My parents were like, are you stupid? They're like, what are you like for years? They're like, what are you doing? But now it's just, kids are doing this all the time and younger and younger and younger, and they're getting exposed to have these tools that they can use, like you said, to do things. And great ideas come from everywhere.
Yeah, I
It's
think
not
so.
us
And
corporate or
it's
us
funny, I'm just gonna tell you, it's like,
everywhere.
as someone that literally majored in entrepreneurial studies, which is like, people are like, what are you majoring in?
It's like, what is
So
that?
when you combine entrepreneurial studies and marketing,
Yeah,
which is what I did,
yeah,
I became this person who likes to build things, but also a storyteller.
yes.
And I think that
Two sides of the brain, I
two
think.
sides of the brain, and I also studied film. So there you go. But
Mhm.
I feel like technology, as it's always fascinated me, in innovation, just gives the tools to young entrepreneurs to move faster. And I think AI is one of those great equalizers. If you um, if you ever wanted to start something as an entrepreneur, you may not need as many engineers, or you may not need as much capital. All you need is to be able to, have a sharp idea, focus, and
Mhm.
the passion to convince people, to support you. And I think in the right communities that exist.
Well, it's a great segue into AI in general because, I had said before the interview, I call it AI, It's everybody's talking about it, and there's so many different variations of it, and we've been using it a long time. But in the shift in media, creative, digital marketing, advertising, there's a lot of grumbling going on of it's replacing jobs. It's gonna, I'm gonna be out the door. What do you think AI is gonna do? What's the best thing and maybe the biggest issue in AI today, knowing that it's changing? I mean, as soon as we publish this, it's gonna be completely different, in a week. But today, like, what are you seeing are the opportunities and what are issues we should be all looking at as well?
I would say AI has the opportunity to, like any new technology or innovation, to help people move forward. And I think that a lot of times people look at new technologies, and instead of embracing what it can unlock, there's a fear
Mhm.
to it. It's like, oh, it's going to take away our jobs. But actually, if we use the technology right, and if we build optimistically of how we can use that technology, we can actually create more opportunity. And so I think on the positive side, again, I think it's going to shift and empower a new generation of young entrepreneurs. And I think that's very exciting. I think people were more concerned creatively, I think maybe last year,
Mhm.
because now they're seeing, like, you know what, I think I can figure out how to use it in a way to enhance my own creativity.
Mhm.
I think being able to express yourself and have your voice and your own story, I think that that part of the way that we communicate as humans, I don't think that will ever go away. And I think that's part of what people, they almost give up to, whatever technology is new and out there.
Right.
But I think it's just really how you embrace technology to
Mhm.
move us forward versus hold us back.
Yeah. I mean, with OpenAI and Sora and, the election coming up and, they're kind of holding those releases of things till afterwards because dot, 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 there are, bad actors out there who will use AI, and have been using AI in, very divisive ways that are not great.
Yes.
How do we, I don't know, police, regulate? Do we all need to get on boards to talk about this? Like everybody needs to get involved. Like just there has to be some regulatory outside of even government that helps us to make sure that those properties and those new technologies are used in ways that are healthy and positive versus what they can be used for and have
Yeah.
been used for.
No, I agree. I mean, I think in some ways we can use AI to actually help us detect AI. I think that there's just, we use it for good where people are trying to use it for bad. And yeah, I think that there's always going to be bad actors, but I think that yeah, I think that like the positive side of using technology is the opportunity for us to try and build better around it.
Yeah. Um, what would you say to someone starting their career? They were saying, I want to work for an ad agency. I'm in creative, like especially as a woman and a woman of color, as Asian Pacific, like what would you say is the one thing maybe you learned that you could apply if you were your younger self or you were, advising or mentoring someone?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a few things. I think a lot of times when I talk to my mentees, and if they're younger, I always tell them, to design for a greater purpose. Because I think that so many times people think about um, right what's in front of them, the
Yeah,
opportunity right in front of them.
yeah,
And I think that especially in today's world, with the way consumers think about how we want to spend our days and what do we want to, who do we want to spend our time with?
yeah.
I think the key word there is purpose,
Mhm.
designing for a greater purpose beyond a KPI.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that the second thing I would say really is around just if you are building or if you're creating, embrace that creative process. I think that people sometimes get tripped up in the frustration of it and just say, I got to get to the end goal.
Right.
But most of that learning comes during the process.
Yeah.
And part of that process, and then probably the most important, is the end of that process when you're
Mhm.
reflecting on what did I set out to do?
Right.
What did I achieve? And what did I learn and how will I apply it as I move forward? So I think that is such an important part of the creative process and growth. And then I also think in a world where we have so much social media is to let your personal growth define your success. And it kind of ties in with the second one about reflection, because as a woman and a person of color and a creative, it's so important that we actually reflect and like, you know what, feel good about what we've accomplished, because a lot of times you're constantly trying to be the same or as good as, or even if you already are,
Mhm.
there's something that
Mhm.
is not imposter syndrome. It's probably more like identity-based trauma,
Yeah,
right? It's like
totally.
who you are.
Yeah.
And so what's important in that is believe your own story, where you've come from, what you've been able to achieve, and what you still will do. And so that would be the advice. I hope that's helpful.
Oh, I think that like with a lot of audience listeners that are entrepreneurs and younger folks too, that I think would really benefit, but I benefit from that because I think we don't stop at the end of that. It's never a straight line, right? How we got from A to B, or D, F, G. It's never a straight line, but those curves, those turns, those
Yes.
things, the stops and the starts and the keep going, those are the learning that when you do reflect on it, and you do look back at it, there are new things you can take on to the next iteration, the next reinvention of who you are, the next learning cycle of who you are. I remember having one of my first or second startups where we just ground it out for like 10 years, right? We were successful in the end, but I mean, it was like dog years, and I
Yes.
look back and I think I have 12,000, things we did. Like I kept everything just because I wanted to keep an archive. And I look back and think press release after press release after this, we did this, we climbed this mountain, this TV show, and I thought, I'm exhausted just reading it now. And I don't remember us stopping and taking the vacations, taking the time off with family, grounding ourselves in even like this, giving yourself
Right.
a pat on the back. We were so focused on the next thing that as soon as we accomplished one thing, we were on to the next thing. And that I took away and thought, and this has been, over 10 years, I thought, I'm never doing that again. I'm
Right.
never missing one more family thing. I'm going to take those vacations. I'm going to refresh myself, and I'm going to say, you just did a great thing. Sit in that for a minute. Sit in
Yes.
that and allow yourself to feel,
Well,
just
I will
just
tell
to
you,
feel,
like,
right?
it's so true. And I think that personal growth, knowing that now,
Yeah.
right? It's like always hustling
Oh, yeah.
without actually reflecting and saying, you know what? That
Yeah.
was amazing. That was
Yeah.
awesome. And
Yeah.
like looking at your career,
Yeah.
Cynthia, like
Yeah.
if you don't tell yourself, I will tell you, your career has been amazing and very
Ditto, ditto.
inspiring.
But did we stop during those things? You have 12 patents at Nike. Do you stop and, oh, I'm just going to write another one? And it's like, did you stop and think like how big of an accomplishment those things were? But I'm saying the same thing. We don't stop. Is it a woman thing? I don't know. It's a generational thing. I don't know. But it is something that I think hearing from you, and I know from my personal, I've learned, and I just won't do it again. And I won't work with people I don't like. I mean, it's just like things I won't do. You smell the bullshit faster.
Yes.
You hear, it doesn't matter what they say, how much money they're going to give you. You smell it and you're like, yep, nope. I can tell this one, I'm not going to be able to give my full self, my full authentic self to you, because that's not really what you want. You
Yes.
want
I
a
think
version.
it's so true to, I agree with you. You have to have those boundaries, with people that you work with, but also for yourself to
Yeah,
say, it's like, I'm tempted to actually just, uh, I can get to that later.
yeah,
But I think like time is such a amazing reminder
yeah,
that actually is like, you can't take things for granted.
yeah.
And I think it shouldn't take something that is difficult to give you perspective. And I think having that perspective every day will be liberating.
Definitely. I think we could go on for a really long time, but glad you're going to be in LA. I will definitely see you here. Thank you so much, Tessa. You've given us a lot of great information. I think we'll probably go back in a year and dive back into this. And I know you're going to be doing amazing, great things. But thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed our chat.